Biology professor Dr. Carrie Doyle has done her fair share of research in her career, one of which being in women's health, focusing on the endocrine system and hormones. She says her current research project is dealing with the same thing. She's still working with hormones, but in a little bit of a different way. The Exotic Feline Rescue Center in Center Point, Indiana is home to over 100 exotic rescued cats. Dr. Doyle is working closely with cougars this year, measuring cortisol levels to see if a prey item who is stressed has an effect on the cortisol levels of the predator.
The Exotic Feline Rescue Center offers a home to any animal in need. We started off with just big cats of all different kinds, lions, tigers, cougars, leopards, servals, whatever else. And we've since branched out to other animals. So now we have foxes, wolves, a coyote, some raccoons. Whatever comes our way, we are able to give them a home. For whatever reason that they need it. They've been abused, they've been neglected, just whatever reason, and we just give them a home for life. We try to give them the best home we can possibly give them with as much space as they need, the best diet, good vet care, everything they possibly need to live.
So I'm currently working with the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, monitoring fecal cortisol levels. Feces, unfortunately, is a little difficult to work with because of ways in which different types of bacteria can break down hormones. So we have to go through and actually test with the animals specifically, trying to elicit a particular response from the adrenal gland by giving them an injection of the hormone that would happen beforehand. We first had to do gastrointestinal transit time because we didn't actually have that nailed down yet. So we were feeding chunks of red meat laced with green food coloring. So I've got images of cats with green lips as they've eaten the piece of meat. From there, we could actually tell which sample came from those individuals then as we sent the colored pieces through as pulses. And so we did that for a couple of weeks until we were able to really nail down what their actual gastrointestinal transit time was. Then we did the hormonal stimulation and collected those samples 5 days before and then 5 days after we did the hormonal stimulation. Then lastly, we tried a step really trying to address the question, does it affect a predator's output of cortisol if they've eaten something that had a high level of cortisol? And some of my colleagues at the University of Pretoria in South Africa haven't really been able to test that very well, simply because in the wild you can't tell an animal not to be scared it's about to be eaten. However, what we were able to do was the rescue center actually had a horse that was donated, and they were able to butcher the horse such that we were able to feed both of the cougars, who are a brother and sister pair, Wichita and Kaya. And we actually had a third cougar, Hijinks, who was a control. We didn't do anything with him at all, but they all three were fed from that same horse, so as to try to minimize background cortisol in the meat that they were eating. We fed them that for 5 days. Then for 7 days, we laced the meat with basically hydrocortisone, with what would be basically simulating a stressed prey item. And then we did 5 days after. So we're trying to do some standard curve generation in terms of doing the hormonal stimulation and seeing what kind of uptick in hormones we get. So then we can look to see what hormones we should look for then for that last step. Again, in the hopes that at least for this pair of cougars, who are captive cougars, so maybe not representative of a wild population, at least we can get some standard curve type information on the hormonal tests. And then again, maybe answer this question about the effects of prey stress on predators' cortisol detection.
Dr. Doyle said she made the trip up to the Exotic Feline Rescue Center for the first time in 2019 after one of her students was interested in doing research in big cats. Dr. Doyle and her student at the time spent days researching the effects of positive enrichment on cortisol levels in tigers. The rescue center said the research Dr. Doyle and her student did have helped them tremendously. They're now able to accommodate more to their cats, making sure that they're living the happiest life that they can.
So the research Dr. Doyle is doing is so helpful to us. When we think our animals are happy, she's telling us otherwise. Through the research that she's doing, we've moved animals to different enclosures and seen through her study that they are much happier or that they're more stressed. And so we can do something about that and make sure that they are as happy as they can possibly be. It's incredibly helpful to know that.
The benefit of using this type of testing is that it can give us information about animals in the wild that we can't get from other types of matrices. My favorite part is the relationship that you establish with them. There's one leopard in particular, Sassy. Never really considered myself a leopard person. There was one time I was walking past Sassy's enclosure and she was prowling and kind of ran up on me like we were hunting. So I started to play back and kind of hide behind the grasses. And from that point onward, I made it a point to stop by and say hi to her and to visit with her when I was there. And now it's just, she's my buddy and I have to stop by and see her, and she comes up and she will, say hi to me up in the front part of her enclosure, and then she has to show me all her toys. It's just the sweetest thing. She'll bat her ball around, or and you can tell it's just like a little kid would be like, let me show you this toy I just got, let me show you this toy I just got, and she does the same type of thing with me. So I just let her go through and show me all the things that she likes to play with. And the last time I was visiting with her, she would play and she'd stop and look and see if I was watching her, and then she'd keep playing some more and she'd stop and look and see if I was watching. And so, like, how do you not fall in love with that? You just can't always explain that connection that you have with some of these animals. And all of these animals are they're majestic and they're beautiful and in their own ways too, tragic, because they really shouldn't be where they are. But somebody needs to offer them a good home because they've been in a system that hasn't been always good to them. So in that regards, despite their histories and their baggage, they're all amazingly beautiful, and just as with any animals, forgiving of humans, and they're just a lot of fun to work with. So the field work is just, it just sort of gets that fire in your belly burning that much stronger and makes you really excited to be doing the work, for sure.
Come here. Hi. My favorite part of being here is just having a relationship with all these animals. Everybody has such a different personality from one to the next, and it is so fun to get to know them and be around them every day. I'm so lucky to be able to do what I do. I hear you. I love you. I do. I do. I love my George.
As I started to become more familiar with the animals, lions are more like cats, kind of finicky and about people. Tigers are more like dogs. They come up and say hi to you. They'll chuff, which is this noise that they make at you to say hi, and you can chuff back, and they'll chuff back, and you chuff back. You're like, oh, I just said hi to a tiger. And you realize that you are sort of communicating with them and engaging with them.
Hi. 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 Come on, you want to walk? Okay, we'll walk. Let's walk.
When I was in graduate school, I wasn't in a position to really do a lot of lab-based research work because I was doing adjunct work, and you don't really have a good set lab kind of place where you're rooted. And I worked for vet for a number of years. I had thought about veterinary school. I worked at the Louisville Zoo for a couple of years. But this is just sort of the trajectory that life took me on. I just could see the potential that they could benefit from any research information that we could give them, and we would have the opportunity for student projects, faculty projects. It was kind of a nice, just sort of perfect segue from sort of pulling together some of the lab-based work I've done more recently and work with genetics and our cell biology labs, but bringing in then that love that I have had for animals now for a long time and really marrying the two together.
If you're wanting to visit the cats that Dr. Doyle has done her research on, you can make the trip up to Center Point, Indiana. The Exotic Feline Rescue Center is open to the public every Monday through Sunday from 10 to 4 p.m. Tickets are only $10. Thanks for watching. I'm Sophia Schindler with Knights Media Network.